Christian XC1 review covering Las Vegas and the world. Happy Sunday evening from Las Vegas. It's 9 o'clock here on the West Coast, and happy Monday morning to those of you on the East Coast. We're going to be here for the next hour reviewing the week that was in the NFL. We're also going to be talking about the big events happening next week, this coming weekend in Las Vegas. The Formula One racers are in town for a lot of different festivities. Got a couple of stories today from that as well. So if you like this, of course, hit the like button. Thank you if you're watching it live or the replay. I know my main man Tom is going to be here in a couple of minutes, and we are excited to talk about the week that was in the NFL. And I'm just going to start by saying that there were teams that took care of business today and teams that have been left behind. And I know that Tom is going to have a story for us about what he thinks is the biggest story of the day in a minute. And there he is. See, my opinion, I'm going to go first. Don't type. My opinion is, before we begin, biggest story of the day has to be the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to miss the playoffs, right? There has been a historic trend in the NFL that the team that loses the Super Bowl the year prior doesn't make the playoffs and has a bad season the year after. And I think that that's where the Chiefs are headed. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to have to do something amazing to make the playoffs at this point. Denver Broncos or the Chargers are going to win that division. Denver plays a good enough amount of football. I don't think Denver can beat Buffalo still. I think Buffalo's still got the best offense of the group. I think New England's got a good offense too. But that's what I see right now. I see the fact is at the end of the day, Kansas City Chiefs might miss the playoffs. I mean, I think that's the biggest story of the day. Now I will pause. And you tell me, am I right? Is that what we're leading with tonight, Tom? Is that what you would have led with tonight, or is there something else you would have led with instead? So humor me. I'll wait for the texts. I know you would be excited if they missed the playoffs, by the way. You know. Yeah, I mean, the reality is that is not going to last forever, though. The Bears were very fortunate to beat the Vikings today. The Bears were very fortunate last week to beat the New York Giants. The Vikings are not making the playoffs. The Giants are not making the playoffs. They have a fired coach now. And the Bears' schedule, we can go over that schedule again, but I don't think it's very easy. We can go over that a little bit later. But, kudos to the Bears that they're continuing to win. But when your quarterback has 16 completions on 32 attempts, meaning out of one of every two footballs, he is not completing a pass, you're not going to win playoff games. We talk about this constantly about the Chicago Bears for weeks, and the offense is not great, and it's not getting any better. So, yes, they may make the playoffs. Yes, they're in first place in the NFC North for the moment. Yes, this is all true, but again, I just, again, the Sunday night football game, Philadelphia again beats Detroit in a close game, low scoring affairs. It just seems like, again, I don't know if it's injuries or if it's just that these teams match up so well against each other, but there's just no scoring in a game like what you would expect. Philly and Detroit, you think both those teams would put up 20-something points, and maybe one of them would get into the 30s, and not there again tonight. Eagles beat the Lions on Sunday Night Football. So now the question I have for you on that front is that looking at that, Detroit Lions, what do you think? What do you think, honestly? Philadelphia the best in the NFC right now? Philly just renewed the crown? They're probably going to clinch the NFC East in a couple of weeks. Um, you know, um, I don't know. I mean, did the Eagles just get fortunate tonight, and do we think that Detroit can still beat them? So let's focus a little bit on that conversation first tonight. All right, fine. See, we talked about this about a month ago, and you were like, Philly is falling apart. And now Philly has somehow found itself back together. Dallas, Washington, the Giants, there is nothing to say about those teams. Philly's winning the NFC East. We predicted that 3 weeks ago. Not changing. That's just not changing. Again, the Rams in Seattle today. Rams hold on to beat the Seattle Seahawks. Again, division road games are very tough. We talk about this all the time, the curse of the division road game. And the thing that I have to tell you about that is that I'm not surprised that the Rams won today. I think the Rams are a lot better than we all expected them to be again to start the year. And I think if the Rams could absolutely do some damage in the playoffs. And I think they can absolutely, we know what happened that close game against Philly. We absolutely know what the Rams can do in the playoffs. And I think the Rams are the team that can beat Philly at this moment in time. It's not going to be Green Bay. I don't know about Seattle against Philly. But I absolutely think the Rams have an absolute chance to beat the Eagles on the road. I think they can absolutely be competitive with them, and I think they can absolutely stay with them, But that's my opinion in that regard. And again, I praise Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, again, another example of a New York Jets quarterback who goes to other teams and then finds success after being with those teams, right? And so I give Sam Darnold all the credit in the world, what he did last year, what he's doing this year at Seattle. But again, I think that he is not a premier quarterback. Is he now having a second and third life because of what he was able to do at Minnesota and now Seattle? Absolutely. And I give him all the credit in the world for that. But I honestly just do not think that I just don't think that he's the guy that you want in the playoffs. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. Jalen Hurts, yes, I'll take that. Matthew Stafford, yes, I'll take that. Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts have both won Super Bowls. I trust them to win a playoff game. Caleb Williams, I do not trust to win a playoff game. Jared Goff with the Lions, I would trust him to win a playoff game. Jordan Love, not as much, right? And so I think, when you look at the situation, I would not be surprised if we saw the Rams versus the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Depending on how the seeding goes and how all this stuff moves along, maybe that's a good possibility, I think the reality, though, is also what's going to really help Seattle, and this is where they need to win, is that they need to play home playoff games. That crowd in Seattle and the intimidation that comes with it is what really helps Seattle, I think. People having to go all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. I think Seattle at home, I could see them winning playoff games. Go to Philadelphia, don't know. Go to Los Angeles, probably not. I mean, it was a close game today, so, it doesn't mean they couldn't beat them there. But here's my response to you in this regard. Seattle's not winning at Philadelphia, and they're probably not winning at Green Bay either. So Seattle's that team that's just not going to get any credit until they show me something a little bit more. If I had to pick, I think New England is ahead of Seattle. I'd rather pick, they're on the other side, obviously, but I think of all the teams that have impressed and surprised this year with good records, I'd say New England is number one. I say Seattle is probably number two, and I agree with you. Indianapolis is probably number three as far as the three most surprising so far. Denver, yes, they're up there. Maybe Denver's number four, but Denver was in the playoffs last year, so that's why I ranked them a little bit lower. I was not expecting anything from Seattle this year. I was not expecting anything from Indianapolis this year. So I give those teams all the credit in the world. I don't know how long the Daniel Jones show can go in Seattle. There's no denying that. But again, yes, Seattle's not going to win on the road. They're just not. But I think the biggest storyline today, again, is the fact that the Chiefs are not going to make the playoffs. And if this is Travis Kelce's last year, he's getting married to Taylor Swift this year. There's been all this buzz. If the Chiefs do not make the playoffs, I mean, what will that say? And the reality is that, here's the craziest part, right? You could literally have, if Denver or Indianapolis wins if Denver or Indianapolis wins the first home field advantage throughout the playoffs, you could have New England versus Kansas City in the first round, which would be quite interesting. Again, we're going to see what the Colts are made of next week. I agree with you. If Kansas City has anything left, they have to beat the Colts next week. They have to. And if they don't beat the Colts next week, that's going to be a really challenging circumstance. Going to be a really challenging circumstance for the Chiefs. Then he'll be sitting at 5-6. Can they beat Dallas on Thanksgiving Day? Sure, why not? But you're going to need a lot more than that to make the playoffs. Chris Janik, C1 Review Las Vegas. We're doing a review of the week that was in the NFL. I want to talk about, again, the highlights of the day, and we've already gotten into it, but the Bears winning surprised me. They're first in the NFC North for now. Is it going to last? I don't think so. But, again, if the Bears want to make me true believers, beat Detroit at home later in the year. That would make me a true believer. Beat Detroit at home. We know what happened. Detroit just took them to the buzzsaw this year at home. I think it was like 52-21, whatever it was. Beat Detroit at home, Chicago, and I'll be a believer. That's my opinion on that. The reality is that, Jacksonville winning today also, by the way, did not help. Baltimore winning today didn't help Kansas City either, right? Baltimore beating Cleveland 23-16. That didn't help Kansas City's cause. Baltimore, Jacksonville winning, and Houston, by the way. Houston is now 5-5 as well. So you've got all these teams that are back in the mix. And I still think there'll be only one team in from the AFC North. But the point is that there's still a mathematical chance that both Baltimore and Pittsburgh can make the playoffs. And again, I don't think Pittsburgh is going to do anything in the playoffs. I just don't see it. What's interesting to note, Tom, is you could literally have Pittsburgh versus Buffalo, by the way, in the first round. If you don't have Baltimore versus Pittsburgh in the first round. And I think Buffalo is, if Buffalo has to go to Baltimore, it will be an absolutely classic game. Can New England still falter a little bit? Yeah, they got a favorable schedule, but you never know in that regard. You just don't know. So I sum it up in this way, in this opinion. Buffalo versus Baltimore, first round playoff game, that'll be great. That'll be a great first round game if we end up with that. Buffalo would rather play Pittsburgh, I'm sure, and I take Buffalo every day of the week and twice on Sunday if Buffalo plays Pittsburgh in the first round. Take Buffalo every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Absolutely. No questions asked. So, I think the Bills are probably rooting for the Steelers to win that division because Buffalo would be the top wild card if New England was able to win the AFCs. Chris Janik, C1 Review covering Las Vegas and the world. Good evening from Las Vegas. Good morning wherever you are in the rest of the world. We're going over NFL Week 11. The reality of what it comes down to is that here's the question, Tom. Is that game on the is the game next week? Well, the Bengals play the Patriots. Is that at Cincinnati or is it at New England? That's a big deal. That's a big question. If it's at Cincinnati, I like it more for Cincinnati. If it's at New England, I like it less. New England an earlier winner this week, 27-14 against the Jets on Thursday Night Football. Other things today, San Francisco gets off the schneid. They get a big victory against the Arizona Cardinals today. 49ers, again, another team who could make the playoffs, but I'm just not a believer given their circumstance and situation. I would trust the Rams more. I don't know if I would trust Seattle more, but I definitely don't think that the 49ers are going to make some deep run in the playoffs given their circumstances. So we shall see if those circumstances change. The 49ers are just kind of a team that's sitting there. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it on that front, you know. So that's what we're looking at in that direction. You know. Well, Justin, thank you for jumping in tonight. Nice to meet you. If you're a first time in the room, it's very nice to meet you. Are you a Rams fan? We're getting some great pickup doing these late night Sunday nights NFL recaps. Justin, it's very nice to meet you, and thank you for tuning in tonight and being here with me and Tom. Tom, a great Bills fan. You know, I think the Rams are a good team, and as I was talking with Tom earlier, I think that the Rams are the only team at this moment that I would feel comfortable with beating the Eagles in the playoffs. That's my opinion. And I don't think Seattle is as good as they are, and I don't think Seattle is going to do well on the road in the playoffs. That's what we were basically talking about. You know, that's what we were talking about in that regard earlier. You know, I think that the reality is that the NFC, you know, it's got a couple of teams that I think can or have great powered offenses and all that stuff. Thank you so much for subscribing. We greatly appreciate it. We do a weekly, nightly NFL segment on Sunday nights, and we do a weekly show during the early games every week. Thank you for being here. We do college football every Wednesday as well. Go over to the main channel. We do celebrity C1 interviews, conversation. We talk to everybody. We do a little bit of everything. You're here in Las Vegas, the fastest growing multimedia outlet in Las Vegas, and the only real YouTube talk show in Las Vegas as well, who interviews all the headliners and newsmakers. Thank you for coming in, Justin. You know, the thing is that, again, I just don't think the Seahawks are as good as they think they are. I think the Rams we're getting underrated, but I think the Rams get the love they deserve after the win today. I agree with that 100%. I think it's still the Bills, and I don't know about New England. I don't think Denver. I think Denver is good, but I don't think they'd beat Buffalo. Baltimore is having a resurgence now after 4 straight victories. The Ravens, again, as I told you, I think the Ravens are right behind the Steelers, and I think that the Ravens are going to beat the Steelers twice, and I will not be surprised by that. I will not be surprised if the Steelers lose to the Ravens twice and the Ravens win the AFC North. The Ravens are ready to go, and it's just one of those things where I just don't think the Steelers are very good. And they started hot, and they're going to end cold, and that's just my opinion. I don't have much to say about that. You know, listen, you know, Tom, again, that'll be a question mark game, and you know, Tennessee played Houston tough today, 16-13 last minute field goal victory for the Houston Texans. Seattle, if they are for real, they should just win that game by multiple scores, right? They should win that game by multiple scores. That could be a trap game for Seattle next week against Tennessee. Could absolutely be a trap game. I understand your prerogative and your point on that one. Seattle better not look ahead from Tennessee. You know, the reality of what it comes down to at the end of the day is that it's just like, you know, the Rodgers show is what it is, and it's hot and cold, as we talk about, right? And so this is where we are right now. And Ravens are winning that division. I called that a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I said the Ravens are going to win the AFC North. I think I called that last week before all of today's events. Ravens are on their way. The Ravens are on their way, and the Ravens are definitely on their way. And again, Ravens versus Bills in the first round of the playoffs, be quite good. Guess what? Somehow the Bills were able to win the AFC East. If New England somehow falters here, New England versus Baltimore in the first round. But by New England, there is no way New England is beating Baltimore in the first round at Baltimore. Not happening. But by New England, so I'm just telling you, the reality of what it comes down to is New England better hope that they keep winning football games, because they're not going to beat Baltimore in the first round on the road. You heard it here first. But yeah, I mean, some other thoughts for today. Carolina Panthers, so happy for them. Wish they would have won last week. I wish they were 7-4 and not 6-5. I wish they were 7-4. Bryce Young, there were for a couple of years, people just thought that he was not going anywhere and he was not doing anything. And I'm just really happy to see that Bryce Young is doing well, and the Carolina Panthers are 6-5. I want to see new teams in the playoffs. I don't want to see the same teams in the playoffs. We talk about this time and time again. I do not want to see new teams in the playoffs. I do want to see new teams in the playoffs, and I hope that the Carolina Panthers get there. I really do. I haven't looked at their remaining schedule, but they need to keep finding ways to win football games. Carolina 6-5 now. They could absolutely make the playoffs. I absolutely hope that they make the playoffs. I really do. I really hope that Carolina makes the playoffs. Yeah, I can't either, Justin, but it's just about the story. It's about the fact that we don't have like these same teams in every year. Like last year, we got Denver in. I want to see new teams in the playoffs. I don't like seeing the same 5 teams in the playoffs every year and the same matchups every single year. It gets quite boring after a while, if you get my drift. I remember historically, and I don't remember if it was the first or the second year of the Panthers and the Jaguars' existence, but if you recall, the Panthers made the NFC Championship game and I believe lost to the Packers, it was, and the Jacksonville Jaguars lost to the New England Patriots. And what it would have been like if you would have had Jacksonville versus Carolina in the Super Bowl. That would have been unbelievable. No, the Panthers won't win a playoff game, but it'll be a fun example to see other new teams in the playoffs. I don't like seeing the same teams in the playoffs every year. And that's kind of the whole point, is my point. That's all I'm going to say to you. My opinion, listen, you get Carolina versus the Rams in the first round. Yeah, Carolina, is not winning that game. I agree. Carolina versus Philadelphia in the first round. Carolina is not winning either, I think it was the second season of the Panthers and the Patriots. I believe you're correct, Tom. I think it was the second season of the Panthers and the Jaguars, and they both made the championship game. Right? And they both did not win the NFC championship. I would have been like if the Jaguars and the Panthers played in the Super Bowl. I wanted so badly for both of them to get there, and they didn't. And of course, we had the Green Bay versus New England Super Bowl, which was the only Super Bowl ring for Brett Favre against Drew Bledsoe and company. So, Mike Holmgren was on the sideline for the Green Bay Packers. And, of course, Bill Parcells was on the other sideline for the Patriots, I believe. So I think that Super Bowl was in New Orleans, too, if memory serves me right. I believe the final score was Green Bay 35, New England 21, if memory serves me right. But yeah, I just remember I was just so saddened by that as a child, because it was like, I'd love to see the Panthers and the Jaguars. And the reality is that neither of them have really been close since then, and I would just love to see some others in. Justin, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I don't think the Pats are going to get the Bills the next time around. I think that was a one-off fluke, honestly, to tell you the truth. And again, if we were in the playoffs, I've told Tom this multiple times, I think if it were the playoffs, I think the Bills beat the Patriots if they faced each other at some point. I think that the Bills, today's 44-32 victory over Tampa Bay, I think it's a great statement. I just think, I think New England's offense has come a long way. New England was very impressive against Tampa Bay a few weeks ago. New England seems to be a team that can put up, 24 to 28 points a game. But again, I just, am I sold yet? Am I officially sold on the New England Patriots? I don't know yet. I don't know if I'm truly sold on the New England Patriots at this point in time. We have to just continue to see how they play as they move along in this conversation. As Tom mentioned, it's like New England's got to go to Cincinnati this week. Again, Cincinnati, a team that can put up a lot of points, doesn't have a great defense, though. We'll see how good New England's offense is. I always joke, but I'll continue to say this for the rest of the year. I think Cincinnati has the worst defense in the NFL. I think Cincinnati has the worst defense in the NFL. by far. Pittsburgh struggled against it today. They got some turnovers and they got bailed out. I want to tell you in this regard, if New England does not move the ball next week on Cincinnati continuously, that is not good news for their playoff hopes and going deep in the playoffs. So we'll see how good the Patriots are next week when they play the Bengals. That will absolutely be a test. That will absolutely be a test, in my opinion, for sure. I think the Bengals can beat the Patriots next week. There's been a lot of upsets this year, so that's going to be an exciting game to watch. I look forward to commenting on that next week. Bengals are pretty much playing for nothing now after their loss to the Steelers. They had so many opportunities to get back in this, AFC North conversation. Good morning, sir. Thank you. Always watching from Kenya. We got, viewers across the world. Justin, where are you chatting from us tonight, by the way? Thank you again for joining us. And are you a Rams fan, Justin? Or are you a fan of another team? Thanks so much for being here this evening. Christian XC1 review, Las Vegas, of course. NFL Week 11 review. We're going to be here for another half an hour or so. Let's get into some of the other topics today. I want to go down a list of just some discussion points. We've talked about Carolina. We haven't talked about Houston a little bit, and I just want to get back for a second to talk about the Texans because, to me personally speaking, again, they were 0-4 to start the year, and now they're 5-5. And I know it's Davis Mills and it's not C.J. Stroud, but we got to give them all the credit in the world for being, for being 5-5. The reality is it's probably going to be 5-6 after Thursday Night Football, Tom, but I got to give Houston credit to being 5-5. I got to give them all the credit in the world. That is just unbelievable in that regard. I thought Houston was done before it began. When the Ravens were 1-5, I thought they were done. And for comeback teams of the year, Houston and Baltimore are the comeback teams of the year. There is no denying that whatsoever. Give them credit. They're still alive. And give Jacksonville credit too, by the way, today. They thumped the Los Angeles Chargers today. After losing to Houston on the road last week, 36-29, the Jaguars thumped. They thumped the Chargers today. And I don't think it matters. I told Tom earlier, I told him earlier today, I was just like, every team in the NFL has a throwaway game. And I think this was the Chargers throwaway game. And, you just go back to the drawing board and you just forget this week. And you're just like, yeah, let's move along, Chargers are going to make the playoffs. I think they can beat New England. I think they can beat Denver. I think they can even beat Indianapolis maybe. I don't think they can beat Buffalo, and I don't think they can beat Baltimore. That's my opinion, I think that the Jags can absolutely beat New England, though. Tom, we always talk about the Jags being for real, but let's see them win a couple more games, and then I'll be a big believer. I don't really have any teams, Justin. I grew up as a Dolphins fan. I'm in Las Vegas now. I root for the Dolphins, and I do root for the Raiders to do well, as we're based here in Vegas. But I just like watching good football overall. If anybody knows anything about it, I just like watching good football overall, and I call it like I see it. Tom is a Bills fan. He is a lifelong Buffalo Bills fan. So that's that. Christian XC1 review, Las Vegas. Good morning, good evening from around the world. Thank you so much for everyone's here who's watching live or watching in the replay. So here's the second thing I'm going to say with this last half an hour. We haven't talked about it today. The Chargers, a bye week could not have come at a better time, Tom, for them after today's loss. Go back to the drawing board and work on some stuff, Tom's lived here. Tom's a lifelong Vegan, Las Vegan. I'm an 8-year Las Vegan. Tom is my brother from another mother. I've known Tom for 25 years. Tom, was a reader of some of my first interviews, podcast work. I've known Tom that long. Tom, I call him my first reader, my first listener. No one's better than Tom. Tom is an NFL almanac. When I don't know something or I don't remember something, I always ask Tom, sports-wise, because Tom knows. If anybody knows, it'll be Tom. Aside pro wrestling as well, It's like pro wrestling or sports. Tom just is an encyclopedia of knowledge. There is no bigger fan or no more knowledgeable fan than Tom. He understands stuff like anything else. Well, Justin, you know what? When you come to Vegas, we'll have to hook up, and you'll have to join the party. Nice to meet you, and thanks so much for being here. I'm sure you're going to enjoy moving from cold Illinois to much warmer Las Vegas. And by the way, Justin, Tom is a Chicago Cubs fan as well. So that tie-in as well there. So reality of what it comes down to is that there is no greater city. We are, growing so fast with the professional sports here. And it's been the last crazy 7-8 years since I've moved here where there was no professional sports. And now there's an NFL team, a WNBA team, an NHL team. Formula One Racing is racing on the Las Vegas Strip this week. The Arena Football team. It's just crazy. The Indoor Hockey League team. There'll be baseball here soon. Oh, I can't wait to go to the baseball games with you, Tom. Tom, I can't wait. 4 or 5 years from now, I can't wait to go to a Cubs game with you here in Vegas. That will be fun, sir. I can't wait for that. That is going to be a good time. The reality of what it comes down to at the end of the day is that it's just like we have everything and we are just growing so damn fast. So damn fast here in the entertainment capital of the world. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. We haven't talked much about them in these last 30 minutes. They win today against the Giants. It's good to see that Jordan Love is not out and not hurt. Malik Willis did a good job when he was in there today. So the Packers have a serviceable backup. So good for them. A lot of NFL teams do not have a serviceable backup. They needed to win against the Giants today. It was not an impressive victory at all. 3 missed extra points in that game by both the Giants and the Packers. Yes, it was very windy today, Tom. I admit it was very windy today, Tom, but just not a great effort by Green Bay today. It's good that they won. It's hard to win on the road in the NFL. I understand that, but Green Bay's got to win some more games. Not impressive on Monday Night Football last week, losing to the Eagles 10-7. It's nice that they won today, but I need to see more from Green Bay. I'm really interested and looking forward to it. On Thanksgiving Day, we're going to be here. We're going to be here at 10 a.m. on Thanksgiving Thursday. We're going to do the Lions and the Packers in real time, and we're going to talk about 2 of the best in the NFC, who I'm still uncertain about, and I'm going to have a lot of thoughts on that game as it plays out on Thanksgiving Day. Maybe we'll try to get someone in here during the halftime for a special segment as well. But I just have to tell you more than anything else. Have to tell you. I'm not sold on the Packers yet. I went to the University of Florida, Justin, by the way. Go Gators. Not a great year for the University of Florida. Hopefully it'll be better next year. Small world. Tom is a Florida State Seminoles fan too, if you can believe that. I know. Isn't it crazy? Bills and Dolphins and Gators and Seminoles. It just is what it is, Too funny in that regard. But anyways, Gators, I think, could beat the Seminoles still in 2 weeks. We'll see about that. Seminoles are on the way to a bowl game, potentially, possibly, though. So good for them, at least. Christian XC1 review, Las Vegas. NFL week review. Let's just go down the list of a couple more things for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to talk a little Las Vegas this weekend, and then we'll finish up by reviewing the NFL next week, and then we'll shut this one off. Thank you so much for those of you who are here live. Nice to meet you, Justin. Thank you so much for subscribing, Justin. It helps more than you know. Like the video, watch different videos on our channel. If you like the college football, every Wednesday we do a prediction show, a recorded show that you can watch over on the main channel. So look for that every Wednesday. Please go over, watch those as well. We'll be doing those to the end of the season. Let's just go down. I want to talk about a couple of things today. Jokingly speaking, at this moment in time, Tom, John Gruden talked about how the Miami Dolphins, if they win the next 2 games, they're back in the playoff contention. And I don't see how the Dolphins are going to get over that hill. Again, they have started so slow. I get it that they have an off week, but they get the Saints and then they get the Jets. They'll be 6-7, but I mean, I just don't see how the Dolphins are going to go 9. I don't think 9-8 is going to be good enough, by the way. I might be wrong about this, guys, but I just don't think 9-8 is going to be good enough to get in the playoffs. I think you're going to need to be 10-7 to get that 7th wildcard spot. The way that the Jags are playing, the way the Colts are playing, the way the Patriots are playing, the way the Colts, Patriots, Bills, Broncos are playing, the Chargers are playing, the Jaguars are playing. I don't see 9 wins being good enough. I can't see the Dolphins winning their last 6. I just can't see it. So it'd be nice to see the Dolphins finish strong. Good for them, but I don't see how the Dolphins are getting over that hill. I just don't see it. Unless a lot of teams just start losing, I do not see how the Dolphins are going to overcome any of these other teams to make the playoffs. Yeah, correct. And here's the reality also. I think that the Chiefs also, the Chiefs are ahead of them. I just don't see it. John Gruden was like, oh, Miami gets back in the playoff discussion and all this kind of stuff, and it's just like, yeah, no, I just don't see it. I think the Dolphins could beat the Steelers, by the way, in 4 weeks, but sitting there 7-7, and you know what the remaining schedule is? They got to play, I believe, Tampa Bay, and they got to play New England. And I just don't see them going to New England and winning that football game. I believe it's in New England. I don't see that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is in Miami, but I don't see them beating Tampa Bay. I just don't see Miami beating Tampa Bay under any circumstance. I know Tampa Bay's faltered a little bit the last couple of weeks, losing to New England and losing to Buffalo. But good teams at least to lose to, right? Good teams to lose to. But, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I do not see it. I just don't see it. I don't see how the Dolphins are getting there. I just don't see it. So congrats to the Dolphins winning a couple of games in a row. They beat Buffalo last week. They beat the Commanders this week in Spain, but I just don't see it. Other storylines from the week of the NFL. Let's just go down. Let's take a look here quickly. Okay, Tom, I want your thoughts on this. Will the Browns in their next game give Deion Sanders' kid a chance to start at quarterback? Is that coming? Is that just coming because the Browns want to sell some tickets? Is Mr. Sanders Jr. going to get his shot to play a full game, we think? Is that what's coming? So. Okay, so it is in Miami. Well, that helps. Historically, New England hasn't done well in Miami. We know that. So maybe there's a small chance, but I just can't see Miami being Tampa Bay. I can't see that. But will Deion Sanders' son play as the starting quarterback in the next game for the Browns? Are they going to are they going to let him play the rest of the year and they're going to try to sell tickets? Is that what's going to happen here? What do we think is going to happen for the Browns? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. A lot of people have been complaining. The reality is that it's just, again, I don't know. Here's my response. You ready? It's obvious that a lot of people feel like that there was some conspiracy against him because of Deion Sanders and why he didn't get drafted higher, right? Why he didn't end up in that situation, right? So that's number one, right? And then number two, the question is that a lot of people said he's not as great. It was just an overhyped machine when he was at Colorado. I don't know about any of it, but here's my response. If I'm the Cleveland Browns and I want to make money, I let him start the rest of the year because there's nothing to lose. You've already are not making the playoffs. You're 2-8 on the season. So why not just let him play some football games, sell some tickets, and guess what? Yeah, maybe he'll do a little bit well, but at least, you don't have any commitment to him next year once you get to that offseason. You have no commitment whatsoever. So my response to you is why not just give him a shot and, make some money? To me, it's just a business. Sports is a business. And so it's like there's no risk at all for him being out there on the field. There's nothing to gain whatsoever by him being out there. There's nothing to lose either. So why not just give him that shot and let him have that moment? That's my opinion, you know. I mean, it's just kind of like the point be told at the end of the day is that it's like when you end up here's my response to you. If you're a great quarterback or you're a great player, you make a losing team better. You make a losing team better. That is what the case is, that regard, Sanders Jr.'s stats today, while he was out there for the Browns, let's just go over it quickly. It wasn't a lot, but interesting enough, in the time he was in the game, let's go look at those statistics. Excuse me. Let me see if I can find those. See if I can find those. Give me a minute. Let me go to my box score here. Just 1 second. His statistics were 4 for 16 for 47 yards. 4 for 16 for 47 yards. Again, you're working with Cleveland Browns personnel. You don't have the best team on the field, but guess what? If you're a great quarterback, you're going to make everyone better on the field, right? You're going to make everything better on the field. That's basically what happens. But his statistics were 4 for 16 for 47 yards. That's his first playoff game. And that's my point. The thing is that, are the Browns so desperate not to have him start next week that they go and they get somebody off of free agency? I don't know. But why not just let Sanders Jr. play a game and let him start and see what happens? And if it's bad, you can just put him on the bench, But I'm guessing that the Browns, if Gabriel does not clear concussion protocol next week, I'm going to guess they're going to pick somebody up from free agency. So, we'll see what happens, but it's just kind of an embarrassing situation, right? If a guy off the street is starting next week for the Browns and Sanders isn't. Again, I don't know enough. I think that Sanders was impressive at Colorado. He did have Travis Hunter there, who's a great player as well. All right. So Stefanski is committed to him playing next week. So, we're going to get a chance to see it and see if there's anything there. That's my point to you. Why not just let him play that game? And again, for some of those Cleveland home games, you're going to sell some more tickets just because he's the starting quarterback. This guy's got a fan base. Again, football is a business. It's not just about, yes, you want to win football games, but it's a business as well. And if I'm the Cleveland Browns, and I'm sure there are, 5, 10, 20, seats, probably some seats during the season right now for the Browns. So why would I not want to try to get some guy to appeal to sell some tickets in a losing cause season already? Who do the Browns play next week, Tom, while we're sitting here? So who do the Browns play next week? Love to know that. And is it a road game or is it a home game next week? Let me know that. I'd love to know that. So that's my last thought on that. We've spent so much time talking about that, but again, if I were going to rank them right now, and this is the last part we're going to do on the NFL, and then we're going to talk a little Vegas, and then we'll be out of here in 15 minutes. If I was going to rank everybody, if I was going to rank everybody, here's what I'm going to say to you still. I think it's going to be Buffalo versus Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. I think the Rams can get there as well, and we can have Buffalo versus Rams. But I still think the Bills are the best team in the NFL, bar none. But it will come down to what is the Bills' draw in the playoffs that will determine it. So, the Browns play the Raiders next week. Oh boy. Well, that'll be a great chance for him to show something. We are going to get some college football in there in a couple minutes too. There isn't much to talk about though next week, Tom. What is there to talk about next week? Oregon plays USC. I think that game will be phenomenal. Absolutely. USC has a chance to play themselves into the college football playoff if they win next week. And I think that's a great story. I think that's absolutely a great story. Be nice, Tom. Not Toilet Bowl 2.0. Be nice. Have a chance. I think that USC has a chance to play themselves in the college football playoff next week. So that to me is the big storyline. I also like that BYU Cincinnati game. And if BYU continues to win, BYU has to be in that college football playoff discussion as well. But to me, there's just not enough games next week. There's just not enough games next week, in my opinion. Ranking the top 5 NFL teams. Okay, let's think about that. Philly's got to be at the top again. I think Philly is the best team in the NFL. Philadelphia/Buffalo. I think on the next line is probably Detroit and the Rams, maybe. I think the Rams are ahead of Detroit. Then Detroit's probably below that. I don't think Denver, Indianapolis, or New England make that list. I think Tampa Bay is still pretty good. I don't know about Green Bay. But, I think the top 3, in the NFL, you can put them in any order you want. I think they're Philadelphia, Buffalo, and the Rams right now. I think those are still the 3. I don't believe in the Indianapolis thing. I think, like Thomas said, I think Daniel Jones, the Indianapolis experiment is going to wipe itself out, at some point. Oklahoma kept itself alive. I agree. We talked about that earlier. Oklahoma's still alive for the college football playoffs. Very disappointed in Alabama losing that game yesterday. I thought that Alabama was going to knock Oklahoma out of its shoes. Not a great loss yesterday by the Alabama Crimson Tide. TAMU's comeback yesterday was one for the ages. TAMU's got Samford this week. They're going to be 11-0. They're locked in. Samford, they'll beat the Samford Bulldogs. They'll be 11-0. TAMU is on their way to the college football playoff. What a great story going on down, there at Kyle Field, I believe it is, in TAMU. What a great story for the TAMU Aggies, Texas A&M Aggies. I don't think anybody expected them, So, yeah, I don't trust Detroit either, Detroit's not the Detroit of last year. But here's my response. And I told Tom this. A telling game in the coming weeks will be when Detroit goes to Chicago. We will find out how good Chicago is, and we will find out how good Detroit is at the same time. And I also told Tom the Thanksgiving Day game between Detroit and Green Bay, we'll find out how good both those teams are as well. And we'll be doing a live for that also. So that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. College football though next week, Oregon, USC, great game. BYU, Cincinnati, interesting game. Other than that, there's not really much next week that I look at and I say, well, that's an amazing game. Ohio State's playing 5-5 Rutgers. Good luck, Rutgers. Good luck. Not winning that game, that's for sure. Notre Dame looked impressive yesterday. I think Notre Dame can do some damage in the college football playoff if they get there. But, I think at this point, Texas not making the playoff, Georgia's going to make the playoff, and I look forward to seeing it. I would really like to see USC make the playoff, though. I think that would be a surprise to a lot of people. I don't think anybody expected USC to win more than 6 to 8 games this year. I would like to see the Trojans make the playoff. That would be interesting to me. So can USC beat Oregon this week? We shall see. We shall see. We shall see. But yeah, I think the best 3 teams in the NFL, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and the Rams. New England is only going to have luck in the playoffs if they end up with the first round bye. I think if New England has to play Jacksonville or Los Angeles in the first round, I think they could lose that game easily, Louisville just lost this past week though, didn't they? I believe. Am I right about that? Maybe I'm wrong. SMU beat the University of Miami a couple weeks ago, so I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that the ACC probably gets one team into the playoffs at this point. I think we already know that. ACC not having a great year. Just not having a great year with the ACC. Florida State not doing well. Clemson not doing well. Not a great year for the Miami Hurricanes. A lot of expectations, not doing well. A lot of expectations for all those teams, and it's just not happening. Miami's not going to make the ACC championship game, so they're going to be out by de facto default. Miami could still lose to Pittsburgh too, by the way, on the road. I think to end the year they play the Pitt Panthers. That's not going to go very well for them too. And Louisville lost to Clemson, so not a great year for the ACC. Just not a great year for that conference at all. Seems like it's the SEC, the Big Ten, and everybody else this year. And how long? And again, as I talked about earlier today, there's no way that Indiana is beating Ohio State in the playoffs. I don't care about this Indiana Hoosier story. They are not beating Ohio State. And I think TAMU would beat Indiana right now. I absolutely believe that TAMU would beat Indiana. There's no way that's happening. It's a great story. Congratulations, Indiana, for forever has never been a powerhouse college football program. But the Indiana Hoosiers are getting to becoming a powerhouse college football program the last couple of years. I'm not surprised by Miami. And Tom would explain to you why also, and Tom knows why. Miami has never won the ACC championship. Since leaving the Big Least, as I like to call it, which was the Big East, the Big Least, Temple, Rutgers, West Virginia, Boston College. Boston College was a good program back in the day, and Virginia Tech was with Michael Vick, and Syracuse had Donovan McNabb. But Miami just had a cupcake Big Least schedule when they won that national championship with Larry Coker, back in the early 2000s. They played in the easiest conference. And the minute that the Miami Hurricanes moved to the ACC, it was over. Miami has never won the ACC. They are not a great program. The U is not back. I say that because just go look at the statistics. Miami is not a great program. They are not the Miami of the past, of the 80s and the early 90s. It's not Jimmy Johnson. It's not Dennis Erickson. The reality of what it comes down to at the end of the day is that it's just like, again, Miami Hurricanes. I knew that game against Southern Methodist University was going to be a trap game. And I said on the college football, you can go watch our college football predictions. You can go back and look at all the archive I did with Lane Fobbs. We do a weekly college football segment that drops every Wednesday. I said very repeatedly, and I said this again, and I will continue to say this. I thought that Louisville game against Miami was Miami's toughest opponent thus far, and Louisville beat Miami at Miami. And then, they go off to lose to Southern Methodist University, which wasn't surprising because this is not the Miami of the past. It's just not. They're not. And again, any team in the SEC probably gobbles up Louisville, and they gobble up Southern Methodist. But again, imagine if Miami was in the Southeastern Conference, having to play Texas and Oklahoma and Alabama and LSU every year, like the University of Florida has to play, or Georgia, or any of these other programs. It's like, imagine being gobbled up in that. Miami would be lucky to win 6 games every year. So again, I've always liked to say the minute that Miami went from the Big Least, it was the Big Least to the ACC, which, for a long time, by the way, I used to call, I'm sorry, I'm being polite, America's crappiest conference. But it's gotten better, obviously, because you got Clemson in there. You got Syracuse, you got Virginia Tech. It's a better conference now. ACC is a great conference. The reality of what it comes out. Well, here's my response to you, Tom. Clemson beat one of those ACC teams. They did SEC teams. Clemson did beat Alabama in the rematch. I think you should give Clemson a little credit on that. Clemson did beat Alabama. Clemson was there, for a couple of years. So the point being told at the end of the day is that it's just kind of like, though, the minute that Miami stepped up, it was over. And they never won the ACC championship in almost 25 years. So, I could just go on about that for hours. Florida has to play in the toughest conference every year. You have now all these coaches that come in and recruit the state of Florida. Miami, FSU, and Florida do not own the state of Florida anymore for football talent. There's all these NIL agreements. There's transfer protocol, transfer portals, and all this stuff. It's just much harder than it ever has been. And players want to go where they're going to start, or where they're going to have a chance to win. And college football in general has just become big business. And the true, as Mike Leach said, may he rest in peace, who was, a past C1 interview guest almost 30 times plus, love Coach Leach, a great supporter of us, wish he was still here, who passed away 3 years ago this coming December. The reality of what it comes down to at the end of the day is that, college football is the pro minor leagues now. It always has been, but it is now more than ever. And so, again, if you're in the SEC, you just get beat up every week by those opponents. So, okay, enough of that. Finally, last 3-5 minutes here. Biggest thing going on in Las Vegas this weekend. Formula One racing will be back on the Las Vegas Strip. Are going to be back on the Las Vegas Strip this coming weekend. This will be the third year in a row that the drivers are on the Formula One Strip. I think it's going to be phenomenal as always. If you saw the F1 movie back in June with Brad Pitt, how good, how big of a world sport that Formula One racing is here. And so the fact that the drivers are going to be on the Las Vegas Strip again, I know it's a pain for the locals. I know the traffic is terrible when they're constructing the stuff. I understand all those things. And I'm sorry that there are so many inconveniences, but the reality of what it comes down to is that this is the whale sport of all sports, and it's just become bigger and bigger with the Netflix series Drive to Survive. The reality of what to say at the end of the way, but the reality of what it comes down to is we're all professional wrestling fans here, Justin. But the reality of what it comes, can't wait for WrestleMania, Tom, and can't wait for that pro wrestling weekend. So hopefully you'll keep coming back. We do this every week at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, Justin. We're here. So put it on your bookmark schedule for every week for the rest of the NFL season, all the way to the playoffs, all the way to the Super Bowl. We're going to be here every week Sunday at 9 o'clock Vegas time. So put it on your calendar, and we'll see you again next week. But the reality of what it comes down to at the end of the day is there's just no bigger sport, and it's going to be they draw celebrities and big money to the town. It's big business. It's a big business week coming, and I look forward to seeing the drivers. There's nothing more cool than seeing the drivers race on the Las Vegas Strip. I got a chance to go to go to Home Depot today. They were having a driver simulator and had a chance to do a little driving around the Las Vegas Strip on one of those driver simulators, and it is just so cool. It is just so cool. Just so cool, absolutely. Racing around the Strip, seeing all the resorts, seeing Sphere, as they pass Sphere. It's an unbelievable circumstance. The race is going to start earlier this year, I believe. It's going to start at 8 o'clock. But there's 3 days of races, and I'll be watching some of the prelim stuff earlier the week on Thursday. Not sure we're going to be at the races on Saturday, but reality is that I'm so looking forward to seeing F1 again here in Las Vegas. And as I like to say, again, the F1 movie with Brad Pitt, if you haven't seen that yet, please go watch that. Even if you're just a sports fan in general, but you don't like racing, you will still love that movie with Brad and Javier Bardem. It's just a phenomenal movie about sports. One of the best sports movies I've seen in recent years as well. Of course, there's some scenes in Las Vegas as well because they're here. They go to win Las Vegas, all that stuff. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you should absolutely see that. It's all on the streaming platforms, Amazon Prime Video and the such. So I'm so looking forward to seeing F1 again this week come to town. Obviously, George Russell won the race last year. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. Lewis Hamilton finished in the top 3 last year. He's a world famous driver. Absolutely brings in money, tourists, big business this week for big resorts on the Las Vegas Strip. They're going to have a great time, and it brings in a European crowd. You know, it's a world sport across the world, all the way from the Middle East to Europe and America and everywhere in between. Formula One racing is big deal business, and I'm excited to see the third installment of Formula One racing this weekend on the Las Vegas Strip. I'm Chris Janik for C1 Interview. We've done our hour. Thank you so much for being here. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching in the replay, make sure you hit that like button below. Go to the main channel, watch all of our videos. Please watch all of our videos. We really greatly appreciate it very much. Like the button, comment as well. And then finally, just to recap, every Wednesday night we drop the weekly college football prediction segment with Lane Fobbs, who covers Sam Houston University. They won again yesterday. The Sam Houston Bearcats are 2-8 on the season. They beat the Delaware Blue Hens yesterday, 26-23. Second one in a row for Sam Houston. Congrats to Lane and his program. We'll be talking about that. But we'll be doing all the college football predictions on Wednesday night. We drop that segment pre-recorded every night, Wednesday night, around 9 o'clock usually. So look for that. And of course, every NFL Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m., 10 a.m., we're there for the early games. And then we're back here every Sunday night, 9 p.m. as always, doing the weekly NFL review segment. Again, I'm going to rank them. Eagles, Bills, Rams. Those are your top three. Do not believe in the Colts. Do not believe in the Patriots. Patriots have won some impressive games. Just still don't believe in them, though. I don't think they're going to do well in the playoffs. Chargers, Jaguars, Broncos, you name the bits. Steelers, Ravens. I still think the Ravens win that division. We'll see. Enjoy your week. Chris Janik, C1 Interview signing off for now. Enjoy your week. Enjoy. We're almost to Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. Happy early holidays to everybody. We greatly appreciate you so much, whether you're watching live or recorded. I will see you next week, obviously. Same C1 Interview channel, same YouTube programs, same city, Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. We appreciate you so much. And thank you so much. Nice to meet you, Justin. Tom, have a great week. Feel better. And we'll be on chat, of course, as always. Justin, we can't wait for you to move to Las Vegas so you can be part of the triad, I guess you could call it, right? And then we need the four horsemen, Tom. Have a great week, Little Nate and everybody else. Wherever you are in the world, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.